February 1945, Bergen-Belsen concentration camp, Germany. A 15-year-old girl is dying on a wooden plank in a freezing, disease-ravaged barracks. Her body is skeletal, her head is shaved bare from lice infestations. Typhus fever covers her skin in a crimson rash. She's slipping in and out of consciousness, burning alive from the inside. Her older sister Margot just fell from the bunk above, too weak to hold on, and died from the impact. Within hours, Anne Frank will follow. Her body will be dumped into a mass grave with thousands of others. No headstone, no funeral, just another corpse buried in the mountains of death that British liberators will discover 2 months too late. This is how Anne Frank died. If you're ready to confront the horrifying truth behind one of history's most famous stories, subscribe to Timeless World right now. Hit that notification bell because what you're about to learn will destroy every comfortable assumption you've ever had about Anne Frank's story. This isn't the sanitized version they taught you in school. This is the raw, devastating reality. The girl who almost made it. Here's what makes this unbearable. Anne Frank survived Auschwitz. She passed through the selection line that sent children straight to gas chambers. She endured the cattle car journey, the dehumanization, the separation from her father. She was then transferred to Bergen-Belsen, a camp without gas chambers, and died anyway from neglect and disease just weeks before liberation. The transformation from a hopeful 13-year-old writer to a bald, typhus-consumed corpse in an unmarked grave shows how the Holocaust killed not just with gas chambers, but through systematic, ill-calculated neglect. A normal life shattered June 12, 1929. Frankfurt am Main, Germany. Anneliese Marie Frank entered the world into a comfortable Jewish family. Her father Otto came from banking wealth, her mother Edith from prosperity. Anne had an older sister Margot, quiet and studious, while Anne herself was outgoing, talkative, and bright. Then Adolf Hitler seized power in January 1933. Otto Frank saw the future. He watched the boycotts, read about laws stripping Jewish rights, and witnessed street violence. In 1933, he moved his family to Amsterdam, Netherlands. He built a new business, Opekta Works, selling pectin for jam production. The Netherlands felt safe. Anne attended Montessori school, made friends, collected Hollywood star photos, and had crushes. She was completely, wonderfully normal. May 10, 1940 destroyed that normality. As German forces invaded the Netherlands, within 5 days, Dutch forces surrendered. The Franks were trapped in the same nightmare they'd escaped 7 years earlier. The tightening noose. The occupation began gradually. Jews had to register. Then they were banned from swimming pools, movie theaters, and eventually forced into separate schools. Then came the Yellow Star, the badge of shame every Jew was forced to wear publicly. Monthly new humiliations arrived. Jews couldn't own businesses. Curfews restricted movement. Bicycles and streetcars became forbidden. The trap was closing. June 12, 1942. Anne's 13th birthday. Her parents gave her a red and white checkered diary. She began writing immediately, addressing entries to an imaginary friend named Kitty. She poured out teenage thoughts, arguments with her mother, and crushes on boys, but also fear. Constant, gnawing fear. July 5th, 1942. 3 weeks after receiving her diary, Margot received a call-up notice. The Nazis were summoning her for labor service in Germany. Otto Frank made an instant decision. The family would disappear. 761 days in hiding. For over a year, Otto had been secretly converting rooms behind his business warehouse on Prinsengracht 263 into a hiding place, the secret annex. On July 6, 1942, the Frank family vanished from public view. Access came through a bookcase that swung open to reveal a hidden door. Behind it, several cramped rooms where 8 people would survive for the next 761 days. The Frank family of 4, the Van Pels family of 3, and Fritz Pfeffer, a dentist. 8 people crammed into tiny rooms with blacked-out windows. They couldn't make noise during working hours, couldn't flush toilets during the day, couldn't look outside. They were prisoners, but alive. 4 employees risked their lives daily bringing food, supplies, and news. Johannes Kleiman, Victor Kugler, Miep Gies, and Bep Voskyle. Anne documented everything. The constant tension, the petty arguments, her complicated relationship with her mother, her growing attraction to Peter Van Pels, her dreams of becoming a writer, her observations about human nature captured with remarkable insight for a teenager. March 28, 1944. Anne heard a Dutch government-in-exile radio broadcast urging citizens to preserve diaries from the occupation. Anne was electrified. She began rewriting her diary with publication in mind. She had found her purpose. June 6, 1944. D-Day. Hope surged through the secret annex. Seoul liberation seemed imminent. August 1, 1944. Anne made her final diary entry. 3 days later, everything ended. The betrayal, August 4th, 1944. Between 10:30 and 11 a.m., German and Dutch police officers arrived at Prinsengracht 263. They went directly to the bookcase. They knew. Someone had told them. To this day, we don't know who betrayed them. The bookcase swung open. Officers stormed in with drawn weapons. After 761 days of successful hiding, capture took minutes. The officer in charge was SS Oberscharführer Karl Silberbauer. He found Otto's old briefcase and dumped its contents to use it for carrying valuables. Among the papers that scattered across the floor were Anne's diary pages. Silberbauer didn't look twice. Just paper. Trash. The diary stayed on the floor. After the arrest, Miep Gies returned to the secret annex and found Anne's diary papers scattered on the floor, gathered them, and locked them in her desk drawer. She planned to return them to Anne after the war. The last transport, September 3rd, 1944. The last train from Westerbork to Auschwitz departed with 1,019 prisoners packed into cattle cars. The Frank family was aboard. The journey took 3 days. No food, no water, no toilets. People standing pressed together. The stench overwhelming. Children crying. The elderly dying where they stood. When the train stopped and doors opened, prisoners stumbled into bright lights and shouting guards. This was Auschwitz-Birkenau, the most efficient killing machine the Nazis ever built. SS doctors conducted immediate selections. Those deemed fit for labor went right. Those deemed unfit went left, to gas chambers. Immediate death. Anne was 15, and she was tall for her age. She passed selection. So did Margot and their mother Edith. Men and women were separated. Otto was sent to the men's camp. He would never see his wife and daughters again. The 3 Frank women were processed, heads shaved, arms tattooed with prisoner numbers, stripped naked, deloused, given prisoner uniforms. Anne's beautiful dark hair was gone. The processing was designed to strip away humanity, to transform individuals into numbers. Anne survived the initial shock. She, Margot, and Edith were assigned to barracks and put to work hauling heavy loads, digging ditches, doing whatever pointless labor the SS invented. The food was starvation rations. Multiple survivors later testified they saw Anne at Auschwitz helping care for other prisoners, particularly children. Despite the hell surrounding her, she maintained her humanity. Transferred to Bergen-Belsen, November 1st, 1944. Anne and Margot were selected for transport to Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in northern Germany. Edith was not selected. She remained at Auschwitz. Anne and Margot never saw their mother again. Edith Frank died at Auschwitz on January 6, 1945, from starvation and exhaustion. Otto survived Auschwitz and was liberated by Soviet forces in January 1945. But he didn't know his wife was dead or where his daughters had been sent. For months, he searched desperately. The death camp without gas chambers, Bergen-Belsen, was different from Auschwitz. No gas chambers. It wasn't an extermination camp in the industrial sense. It was something worse. A slow death camp where prisoners were simply neglected until disease and starvation killed them. And when Anne and Margot arrived in early November 1944, conditions were already deteriorating. The camp was designed for 10,000 prisoners. By March 1945, it held over 44,000. Camp infrastructure collapsed. Never enough food, contaminated water, no sanitation. Prisoners crammed into barracks with barely room to lie down. Some slept outside in tents that provided no protection from freezing temperatures. Disease spread with terrifying speed. Typhus, tuberculosis, typhoid fever, Dysentery. Typhus was the worst, caused by bacteria spread by body lice. In Bergen-Belsen's filthy conditions, lice infested everything. Once infected, disease progression is rapid. Fever, severe headache, chills, then a distinctive rash. Victims become delirious. Without treatment, which was non-existent, 40 to 60% die. In January 1945, hundreds died daily. By February, 250 to 300 deaths daily. By March, over 1,000 people dying every single day. The camp couldn't dispose of bodies fast enough. Corpses piled in the open, rotting, spreading more disease. The final witnesses, Anne and Margot, were housed in a leaky tent with nothing but a ditch for a latrine. No heating, no clean water, barely any food. In late January or early February 1945, Anne briefly reunited with two childhood friends, Hannelie Goslar and Nanette Blitz, separated by barbed wire. They were shocked by Anne's appearance. She was bald, emaciated, shivering uncontrollably from cold and fever. Anne told her friends her mother was dead. She believed her father was dead too. She felt completely alone, but even in that condition, Anne still talked about her diary. She told Hannelie she hoped to write a book based on it after the war. Eerie, she still had hope. That was the last time anyone saw Anne Frank alive and coherent. The death of Anne Frank. By early February, both Anne and Margot showed clear typhus symptoms: the fever, the rash, the delirium. Once symptoms appeared, death usually followed within 12 days. One survivor, Irma Sonnenberg-Menkel, was the barracks leader where Anne stayed during her final days. She later testified, "Anne would say to me, 'Irma, I am very sick.' I said, 'No, you are not so sick.' She wanted reassurance." Irma described Anne as delirious, burning up. She brought Anne water when available, but there was nothing else to do. No medicine, no doctors, no hope. She watched Anne slip into a coma. She held Anne in her arms as the 15-year-old died. "She didn't know she was dying," Irma said. Margot died first. Multiple witnesses testified Margot fell from her bunk in her weakened state. The fall killed her. Anne died shortly afterward, perhaps the same day, perhaps the next. Without Margot, Anne had no reason to keep fighting. Research conducted in 2015 determined the Frank sisters most likely died in February 1945, not March as previously believed. Anne Frank probably died between February 12th and February 19th, 1945. Her body was thrown into one of the mass graves at Bergen-Belsen. No individual burial, no marker. Liberation came too late. When British forces arrived on April 15th, they found 53,000 prisoners still alive, though 28,000 would die in the weeks after liberation because they were too far gone. The British also found approximately 10,000 unburied corpses. The scene was so horrific that even hardened soldiers vomited. Mountains of skeletal corpses, survivors who looked like living skeletons, disease everywhere. The British force captured SS guards to bury the dead in mass graves. Then they burned the entire camp to prevent typhus from spreading. The place where Anne Frank died was reduced to ashes. The truth we must remember: Otto Frank didn't learn his daughters were dead until July 18, 1945, 3 months after the war ended. When Otto returned to Amsterdam, Mipgees gave him Anne's diary pages. He was shocked reading them. He saw a side of his daughter she'd hidden from him. In 1947, 3,000 copies were printed in Dutch. In 1952, it was published in English as The Diary of a Young Girl. The book became an international phenomenon. Anne Frank became the most famous victim of the Holocaust. But here's what disturbs me most. Her death wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a selection for gas chambers. It wasn't an execution. It was mundane. She died of disease in a camp where the Nazis killed through calculated neglect. Bergen-Belsen had no gas chambers because it didn't need them. Just pack in more prisoners than infrastructure can support. Don't provide adequate food or clean water. Let disease run rampant. We will never know the exact date Anne died. We will never know exactly where her body was buried. She's somewhere in the mass graves mixed with thousands of others. Indistinguishable, anonymous. The Anne Frank from her diary, the bright, funny teenager who wanted to be a writer, died slowly over 3 years. First, she lost her freedom, then her childhood, then her identity, then her family, then her health, then her hope. Finally, in February 1945, she lost her life. What makes Anne Frank's story universal is that it could have been prevented at so many points. If the Netherlands hadn't been occupied, if someone hadn't betrayed the secret annex, if Bergen-Belsen had maintained basic sanitation, if British forces had liberated the camp 2 months earlier. None of those things happened. A talented young writer died like an animal in a disease-infested camp and was thrown into a mass grave. The only reason we remember her is because her father survived and published her diary. This is what the Holocaust was, not just gas chambers and firing squads. It was the systematic destruction of human beings through 1,000 small cruelties, starving people slowly, denying medical care, packing so many people into so little space that disease became inevitable, is stripping away dignity, identity, hope, and finally life itself. Anne Frank was one of 6 million Jews murdered in the Holocaust, but she wasn't just a number. She was a girl who loved movies, had crushes, and wanted to be a writer. She wrote on July 15, 1944, just weeks before her arrest, "In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart." She held on to hope even when surrounded by evil. She believed in human goodness even as humans built death camps. She planned for a future even when she had no reason to believe she'd survive. And then she died, bald and delirious in a tent, probably not even knowing liberation was 2 months away. Here's what I need you to understand. Anne Frank's diary survived, but Anne Frank didn't. Her words live forever, but she died at 15 covered in typhus sores. If we forget that, if we sanitize her story, then we dishonor her memory. She deserves the truth. The truth is that Anne Frank's death was brutal, preventable, and absolutely pointless. Just like every Holocaust death. Just like genocide itself. Subscribe to Timeless World right now if you believe these stories matter. Hit that notification bell because we're committed to telling the uncomfortable truths history wants to forget. Drop a comment below telling us what other historical stories we should cover. The ones that need to be told honestly, no matter how difficult. Because Anne Frank matters. Every victim of genocide matters. Share this video. The truth is the only tribute worth giving.